Me bacho de obey say oba subscribe it, ne share, ne like it, ne send the movie so in your binge. A higher key sports. Me dinka culture the ye kan ho asem most pa ya sante kotoko because ye Kumasi ana team papa ba ko a ewo Europe a ye ni di akire Barcelona.
August 21st, 1995, Elland Road, 51st minute. A ball dropped from the sky toward a man with fire in his eyes. For the next 3 seconds, 35,000 people will hold their breath because what happens next will be replayed for the next 30 years. Tony Yeboah traps the ball on his chest. He doesn't even look at the goal. Bang! Goal! The sound cracks through the stadium like thunder. The ball rockets toward goal, smashes the crossbar and crashes into the net. The goalkeeper doesn't even twitch. Complete silence. Then Elland Road erupts. But this was not just a goal. This was revenge. This was a skinny kid from Ghana's dusty streets, proving that dreams don't care about your zip code. And the story of how you got there, it is more unbelievable than that thunderbolt strike. Kumasi, Ghana, 1975. While other kids ran home for dinner, 9-year-old Tony Yeboah stayed on the dirt pitch. His forehead dripped with sweat. His bare feet were caked in red dust. But his eyes burned with something desperate. See, Tony Yeboah had a secret. Every night, he snuck out of his family's cramped concrete house to practice football alone. Why? Because during the day, the bigger boys laughed at him. They called him the stick boy. They said he was too weak for real football. But Tony wasn't practicing to prove them wrong. He was practicing because football was his only way out of poverty. In 1970s Ghana, if you were not born rich, you had 2 choices: struggle forever or become so good at football that the world had no choice but to notice you. Tony chose option 2. Hour after hour, he practiced with makeshift balls, plastic balls stuffed with newspaper, goalposts made from sticks. But that right foot was becoming a weapon of mass distraction. When frustration boiled over, Tony would find rocks on the pitch and blast them toward imaginary goals. His older brother would joke, "Tony, you kick stones harder than most players kick real balls." One day, Tony overheard 2 older brothers laughing. "Look at Stick Boy kicking stones again. He thinks he's going to be famous." Tony stopped mid-kick, turned around, stared them down. One day, these stones will become thunderbolts and the world would watch. Little did anyone know how prophetic those words would become. At 17, playing for Kumasi Asante Kotoko, something clicked. 3 consecutive league titles followed. But it was at Okowu United where the numbers became impossible to ignore. 35 goals in 35 games. The local newspapers started calling him the Thunderbolt. They had no idea how prophetic that nickname would become. But Tony Yeboah's real test was not in Ghana, because in 1988, a phone call would change everything. A German club called Saarbrücken wanted him. Tony had never been on an airplane, had never seen snow, had never heard German spoken. He said yes immediately. He had no idea what nightmare was waiting for him. Germany, 1988. The Berlin Wall stood still, and in some corners of German society, so did walls of hatred. When Tony stepped out of the plane in Saarbrücken, everything hit him at once. The freezing air that cut through his thin jacket, the stares from airport workers who had never seen a black Ghanaian, the realization that he was completely alone. Late at night, Tony was sit by his apartment window, homesick tears streaming down his face, calling Ghana just to hear familiar voices. The phone bills ate half a salary. He did not just care, but something cut deeper than homesickness. First training session, Tony nutmegged a German defender. The entire team went silent. Not impressed, silent. Angry, silent. In the locker room afterward, teammates whispered in German, thinking he couldn't understand. He caught enough words to know they were not just discussing tactics. Match day was worse. The moment Tony touched the ball, sections of the crowd erupted in monkey noises. Banana peels rained down from the stands. Some fans held up signs with racist slurs. Each sound hit Tony like a physical blow. But here's what broke his heart most: his own teammates' silence. They heard everything. They said nothing. That night, Tony called his father in tears. "Maybe I should come home, Papa." His father's response would change Tony's life forever. "Son, they make those noises because they are afraid of what you can do. Make them so afraid they forget to hate." 9 goals in his first season. Respectable, but not spectacular. Therefore, the doubters remained loud. They said he was just another strong African with no brain. They were about to be proven catastrophically wrong. Second season, 17 goals. Suddenly, those monkey noises became scattered whispers, because it is hard to mock genius when it is scoring every week. When Eintracht Frankfurt came calling in 1990, Tony Yeboah knew this was bigger than football. This was about changing minds. This was about proving that a black African could lead white Germans. This was war. Frankfurt's World Stadion, 1992. Tony Yeboah jogged onto the pitch wearing something no African had ever worn in the Bundesliga: the captain's armband. The stadium fell silent. 50,000 pairs of eyes stared at the skinny Ghanaian who dared to lead their team. Some fans shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others sneered openly. Tony felt every single stare. His heart pounded. His palms sweated. But then he remembered his father's words: "Make them so afraid they forget to hate." What followed was football carnage. First game as captain, hat-trick. 3 thunderbolts that left the goalkeeper picking the ball out of his net like he was in slow motion. By Christmas, 15 goals. Each one more spectacular than the last. Volleys that crashed off crossbars. Shots that traveled so fast goalkeepers couldn't track them. But here's what really changed everything. Tony started speaking. Before matches, he would grab teammates by their shoulders and stare into their eyes. Not in German, in broken English mixed with Ghanaian phrases they couldn't understand. But his intensity transcended language. "We fight together, we win together," and thus something magical happened. The World Stadium, which once echoed with racist chants, now erupted every time the ball fell to Tony's feet. The same fans who threw bananas now chanted his name. 20 goals in 27 games. Bundesliga top scorer. The first African to claim this honor. But more importantly, Tony had done something unprecedented. He had transformed 50,000 enemies into believers. He had proven that excellence could cure hatred. The 1993 to 1994 season brought another top scorer award. 18 goals in 22 games. Tony was untouchable. But just as he reached the pinnacle of German football, everything exploded. December 1994, new manager Job Heynckes arrived with one announcement: Tony Yeboah, JJ Okocha, and Mauricio Godinho will undergo special fitness training. The German players, no extra training. Tony felt his stomach drop. He had experienced this before. When people treat you differently because of your skin color, you can feel it in your bones. You just know. The standoff escalated. Tony was suspended. His Frankfurt career was over. But sometimes when one door slams shut, another door explodes off its hinges. And Tony Yeboah was about to explode onto English football like a thunderbolt from heaven. The goal that shook the world. Leeds United, January 1995. When Tony arrived at Elland Road, English football had never seen anything like him. In his first season, he scored 12 times in 18 league games. The fans were intrigued, but not yet converted. That was about to change forever. August 21st, 1995. Liverpool vs Leeds United. Monday Night Football. Leeds needed a goal. Liverpool's defense looked unbreakable. Then, in the 51st minute, destiny intervened. A cross floated in from the right wing. Tony was lurking on the edge of the penalty area, chest out. He was ready to pounce. The ball dropped from the sky like a gift from the gods. Tony knew immediately this was his moment. All those years of abuse, all those monkey noises, all those coaches who doubted him, everything came flooding back in one instant. He cushioned the ball perfectly on his chest. No backlift, no hesitation, just pure explosive revenge. Goal! The sound of his boots connecting with leather echoed through Elland Road like a gunshot, like thunder from heaven, like every stone he had ever kicked in anger finally finding its target. The ball rocketed toward goal at impossible speed, struck the underside of the crossbar with a metallic clank, and crashed into the net so violently that the whole goal shook. Liverpool's goalkeeper, David James, one of England's best, did not even move. He just stood there, frozen, watching physics bend to Tony's will. For one impossible second, there was complete silence. 35,000 people processing what they had just witnessed. Then, Eland Road erupted like a volcano. The noise that followed wasn't just cheering. It was something primal. It was 35,000 people experiencing pure awe at the exact same moment. In the stands, grown men hugged complete strangers. Some were crying, not because Leeds had taken the lead, but because they had just witnessed perfection. Tony sprinted toward the corner flag, arms outstretched, face to the sky. He had done it. He had created something that would outlive him. But Tony wasn't finished destroying English football. Just weeks later, away at Wimbledon, he collected the ball near the halfway line. One touch to control, two touches to set himself, a burst of pace that left defenders grasping at air. From 25 yards out, he unleashed another thunderbolt. Bang! Goal! Off the crossbar, into the net. 2 goals. 2 crossbars, 2 moments that would be replayed until the end of time. Standing in that goal, watching the net bulge, Tony knew something had changed forever. He was not just a footballer anymore. He was an artist, a destroyer of physics, a man who turned dreams into reality. English football had found its new king, and thus the legend was born. But behind the spectacular goals lay something heavier than any trophy. The weight of representation. See, Tony was not just playing for Leeds United. He was playing for every kid in every African village who kicked stones and dreamed of European stadiums. Every goal was not just a statistics. It was proof that black Africans belonged among the world's elite. Before Tony, when young Ghanaian players dreamed of professional careers, they thought of local clubs. After Tony, they dreamed of the Premier League. He did not just expand possibilities, he shattered ceilings. But this pressure was crushing. Every bad performance was analyzed not as individual failure, but as evidence that African players could not handle European pressure. Every spectacular goal was a victory for an entire continent. Tony felt this responsibility with every touch. In interviews, he would say, "I play for Ghana first, Leeds United second." But in 1992, that weight became too much to bear. Africa Cup of Nations final, Ghana vs Ivory Coast. Captain Abedi Pele was suspended. As vice captain, Tony naturally expected to lead the team. Instead, the coaching staff gave the armband to Anthony Barefoot. That moment shattered Tony's heart. You could see it in his eyes during the team photo. This was not about a piece of cloth. This was about respect. This was about his own country saying he was not good enough to lead. Ghana lost on penalties in the final. Tony was devastated, not just by the defeat, but by the feeling that even his homeland did not fully believe in him. Lying in his hotel bed that night, Tony made a promise: "I will prove to everyone, including Ghana, that I deserve respect." That disappointment would fuel Thunderbolt for years to come. By 1997, time caught up with Tony's explosive style. Hamburg, new league, new language, old legs. His first season was brutal. 3 league goals in 23 games. The German press smelled blood. "Tony is finished," they whispered. The Thunderbolt had lost its spark. Tony heard every whisper. But they had forgotten something. Ghanaian steel doesn't rust. Instead of fading, Tony evolved. Less standard, more lightning, quick, clever, deadly in new ways. The 1998 to 1999 season, 14 goals in 34 league games. Not the old Tony, but now a better Tony. What amazed everyone was not just the goals. It was his dignity. He would not blast crossbars anymore, but he never complained, never made excuses, never blamed others. Watching Tony in those final years was beautiful, like glimpsing lighting in a darkening sky. The flashes came less often, but when they came, still breathtaking. When he retired in 2002, Tony left behind more than trophies. He left a blueprint, a roadmap from stones to mountains, and thus the boy who kicked rocks became the man who moved the worlds. Today, when you watch highlights of Tony Yeboah's greatest goals, something remarkable happens. They have not aged a single day. That volley against Liverpool, still impossible to believe. The Thunderbolt at Wimbledon still defies every law of physics. But Tony's legacy goes deeper than YouTube highlights. Walk through any African football academy today and you will see his influence. Young strikers practicing volleys, dreaming of hitting crossbars, believing that European stardom is not just possible, it is inevitable, because Tony was Africa's first global football ambassador. His success opened doors that benefited countless players. When you see Mohamed Salah terrorizing Premier League defenses, or Sadio Mane winning Champions League trophies, or Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scoring spectacular goals, you are witnessing Tony's legacy in action. But perhaps his greatest achievement was not what he did with the ball at his feet. It was what he did with dignity intact. When faced with racism, he responded with excellence. When disrespected by managers, he stood his ground. When overlooked by his own country, he kept giving his best. Tony showed the world that success without dignity is hollow. He proved that you could reach the top without compromising who you are. Every crossbar that still rings from his thunderbolt carries a message. Dreams don't care about your background. Excellence speaks every language. And sometimes, just sometimes, a kid who kicks stones in Ghana can shake crossbars in England. From stones to thunderbolts, from dust to glory, from nobody to legend. In the end, Tony Yeboah's story is not just about football. It is about a boy who refused to accept limitations, who turned hatred into fuel, who answered it with thunderbolts. Every time a young African player steps onto a European pitch, they carry a piece of Tony Yeboah's DNA. Every spectacular volley attended in playgrounds across Africa echoes his influence. Every player who stands up for their dignity follows his blueprint. The thunderbolt from Ghana may have stopped scoring goals, but the reverberations will echo forever in the crack of leather on crossbars, in the roar of crowds witnessing impossible shots, in village kids who kick stones and dream of thunder. Because sometimes, just sometimes, lightning strikes twice, and when it does, the whole world stops to watch.